Thank you for being here. Real quick, we will start Brunch in the Middle directly after this, so no incentive to go in there now. But again, my name is Rob Stevens. I'm lucky to be the Minister for Congregational Life here at Middle Collegiate Church. And I wanted to start out this congregational meeting with a little context of what is where we are as a church and where we are literally in this building. It was 2013, Jackie, for the renovation. So some of you all remember that we had a big renovation several years ago, and all the collegiate churches had big renovations. And there was a multi-million-dollar work. And we were lucky enough to not be like some churches that have to shut down because of their building falling apart. But there's lots of big buildings across that you can see going around New York that can actually kill a congregation because of the costs of upkeeping in New York City, and elsewhere, but especially in New York City. So we were lucky enough to have the collegiate endowment that helped pay for that renovation. And what we now have is this beautiful space that we can use. And most of you are here on Sundays, but I can just report that throughout the week we have well over 1,000 people that come through this building that we were able to renovate. They come for meals on Monday, they come for recovery groups, they come for Bible studies, they come for meditation, they come for dance classes, they come for all sorts of gospel choir. So over 1,000, that was as of a year ago, so I think it's probably larger than that we calculated just walking through the doors. And then Jackie's going to tell you a little bit about in order to get that building, what the agreement was. So now we do have the elevator, so we have an accessible building. They dropped the entire floor over there. They dropped the entire floor so that people could come in directly and not have to come up the stairs. That we have accessible bathrooms all over the building that people can get to, and those that we need. That we have, of course, proud that we have changing rooms in the men's and women's bathroom, and that we have lots of non-gendered bathrooms as well. So these are all things that our building is able to do, and we're able to be a community partner to so many in the Lower East Side and East Village. When Jackie came here in 2004, 14 years ago, the Middle Collegiate Church was a church that was living off the endowment, which I didn't even know anything about because I came from North Carolina. I'm not that old, I guess. But Middle raised only 8.8% of its annual budget, around $78,000 at that time. And last year and it was a $1 million budget, so 7.8%. Last year we had a $2 million budget. We've well over tripled the size of the congregation and raised nearly $600,000. And so there's an amazing shift in just those 14 years. Anyone in church work knows that there's a DNA to churches, and to be able to change something that drastically over 14 years is monumental. But it's also reality, because if we wanted to stay a smaller church and not be able to get this out, then we probably could have gone without changing how we fund. But Jackie and the consistory, who you're going to hear from now, was able to foresee that we want to be a growing church and also be a model for that this type of church is viable. That you don't have to give up politics, you don't have to give up worship, you don't have to give up things in order to grow this church, but that it's viable as it is in all the different ways. And so that's a little bit of the context of this conversation, and I'm going to hand it. Did I get everything? I think I did. Oh, no. So giving, so yes, so that's 8 times growth in giving, well over 3 times growth in people, but we've only doubled the budget. And so there's been good financial stewardship as far as not overspending. We haven't just spent our way into growth, but have been very thoughtful, and many of you who have been on the consistory, but also just been in pews and part of this community have helped made that possible. Darren?
Yeah. So my name is Darren. I'm a deacon here at Middle Collegiate Church. And so with that, we're trying to get where we are paying a larger portion of our budget, right? But right now, in this particular moment in time, Collegiate, the larger umbrella organization and the endowment, still pays 60% of Middle's budget. So our offering, this faithful stewardship that you guys have been doing, pays 40% of our budget, and we're trying to even that out a little more. But right now, Collegiate still pays 60% of our part. And so a month ago, we discovered that the gap that we still had left to raise for this year so that we could fund all of the amazing stuff we do next year, which is a $625,000 offering. That's our part. That's what we pay to keep this amazing movement going. We found that the gap that we had left was the same that we had budgeted for worship for the next year. Like the numbers, almost to the dollar lined up. And so we thought, we have 500 people coming to worship, every in-house and online, and $40 per person per week. Boom, we're there, right? We have this gap. We saw who was there. We figured out what everybody would have to give to do it, and we could make this campaign about funding worship, and that would then subsequently finish our budget for the next year. But, we know that some of us can't do 40 a week, right? So even in that, it wasn't just that. We knew some of us can't do 40 a week, and we know that some of us could do 400 a week. So we need to have a larger conversation about what consistent and faithful stewardship from all of us in our particular seats would look like. So that became, so this is where it gets interesting, right? Because we're having this thing about the specific gap that we have for next year's budget. And at the same time, how do we talk about faithful stewardship ongoing to fuel this movement for love and justice, that this safe place for us and this bold place that we all need? And so how do we meet this year's goal, this specific gap that we still have to fill, and how do we also sustain ourselves for the future? And so we went back to the drawing board about how can we both meet this immediate moment and have a good long-term strategy. Yeah.
Thanks, Darren. And so, I want to say a couple of things about that. We need a short-term strategy and a long-term strategy. And our long-term strategy is to get to 50% of our ministry budget by 2022. This is, it is a commitment that we made inside the collegiate system. We all made this commitment together. Some of us under duress, because that's a steep curve. From 7.8% of your ministry to 50% of your ministry. But it's something we committed to do. It's like word is bond. And so on the one hand, middle is this like, yay, national church, and we're leading the justice movement and revolutionary love, and the big old conference, and 174,000 people came to our conference online. That's just crazy. So that's like, we're bad, we got it, except we can't get to 50% of our offering. That's kind of embarrassing in a way. Like it doesn't go with the leadership that we have. So we bought 2 years. We were supposed to get there by 2020, but by 2022, we are committed to being at half of our ministry. And in terms of cost, and there's 2 ways to get there. One is to reduce cost. And we've done that. Rob said that very well. We used to have a minister for everything. A care minister, and a justice minister, and a kids minister, and a finance minister. We are never going to be able to staff up like that again. That's not going to ever happen again. You are the ministers now. Hi ministers. We're going to be doing more and more work with you as lay people, and we're adding one more body to do care and worship. We're in a search, and we're almost there, and we're done. So reducing cost is a way to get 50-50, right? You reduce the cost. But the other really is to increase the revenue. And part of the way we're doing that is the way we rent our building and use our building. Cheryl and Rob work closely together to sort of generate revenue out there. Film shoots, partners that'll rent. But our job is to grow the offering. 50-50 by 2022, because we're leaders in this movement and we have to do our part. And that's the long term. So in May, we're going to have another meeting with you where we talk about vision and mission, where we play back to you things we've heard from you in small groups and in one-on-ones. We're going to talk vision and ministry in May. Vision, ministry, and funding. But right now, $167,000 gap. Some ways that we're going to do that is to really try to hit up my beautiful, amazing, generous, big givers. And some of you are unbelievably generous, and I'm so thankful. I've offered my big number that John and I give. We make a sacrificial gift every year because this is what we believe in. And so I'm coming for you. but I'm also inviting all of you to think about how your role in the river of love and justice means some financial giving. Natalie?
And so, excuse me, I'm going to get a little emotional because whenever I come here, my heart opens up and bursts up. And Jackie's words always do something for me. And that's part of the reason why I come here, because in the middle of the week, my heart gets hardened. But to build upon what Jackie said, some of us are really going to have to step up to make this year's goal. And Darren and Jackie and I are hosting meetings about this, and we'll call upon you to fill that gap. But this is the first time in the 10 years that I've been a member of Middle where I'm a little scared of it changing so much. So I'm up here, and if you know me, you know I don't cry much. So all of us, each of us, in our own way, has to love Middle Church with our giving. We just have to do it. Your budget, your circumstances, your prayer life, what is God calling you to do in a recurring way so that we can meet our goal this year, but also our 50-50 goal by 2022. We have to get there. And we either get there by raising revenue or cutting expenses. And I don't want to do the cutting. That's really hard. And that's why my heart breaks. So we have this badass vision statement that we wrote, and the consistory, the board of the church, I mean, I don't know how many revisions we went through, but we went through a lot. And so to close off this conversation before we open it up to your questions, I'm going to read it, and I'm going to take a pause after each sentence. And I want you to reflect on what part of our mission is calling you. Where can you step in and give more? Because we need it. So here we go. Middle Collegiate Church is a multicultural, multi-ethnic, intergenerational movement of spirit and justice, powered by revolutionary love with room for all. And we're there. Following in the way of Jesus' radical love and inspired by the prophets, Middle Church is called to do a bold new thing on earth. We aim to heal the soul and the world by dismantling racist, classist, sexist, and homophobic systems of oppression. Because God is still speaking in many languages, we work in interreligious partnerships to uproot justice, eradicate poverty, care for the brokenhearted, and build the reign of God on earth. This is the part that speaks to me. This is what I feel like we're called to do, and we're doing it. This activism is fueled by our faith. Our faith is expressed in art. Our art is an active prayer connecting us with the Holy Spirit. Founded prior to this nation, Middle Church affirms the transformative power of moral imagination, reclaiming and reframing Christianity, amen, inside our walls, on the street, and in virtual spaces around the globe. Thank you.
So friends, I'm going to ask Daria, Natalie, Darren, Rebecca, Rob, to be up here, like maybe we'll sit on the thing, pulpity thing, and see if you have questions for us. So come on, leaders. Marta, they might have a question for you. Let's just hang out. Keep our skirts down. Tuck it under. Tuck it down, tuck it down. Okay, and Rob's ready to hand you a mic. There's a question right there. Guys, thank you for staying.
Please introduce.
Really, and thank you for coming early. That's really cool. Appreciate that.
Hey, thank you for this. I just need a clarification because I haven't been following it well. I feel like I sort of came and followed the instructions and gave and did these things. But let's talk about that green thermometer with the yellow at the top.
Yeah.
Is the yellow at the top currently something that wasn't planned but turns out to be necessary, or is the yellow at the top just the yellow at the top? In other words, we're still getting where we plan to go, or is there more needed than what we originally planned for? That's what I'm confused about a little bit right now.
That's an excellent question.
So thank you, Harold. So that entire thermometer is actually our goal. This is, and the green part is what we have raised so far. So that's an incredible generosity from our community. And the yellow part is what we need to get so that we can meet our goal this year.
Is the yellow part something that just got added on?
No.
No, it was always that way.
It was always there.
Yeah. Daria wants to say something. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to that and make it really clear. It's not a surprise. We did plan. What we are is trying to catch up. And if you notice, our target gets larger every year. And that goes back to what Jackie was talking about with our promise to get to that 50% mark where we fund our ministry by half by 2022. So every year we're going to have to actually catch up, and we actually raise that target. We've been doing incredibly well. And so now we just need to step up to hit this next goal.
Great.
So as a percentage of the total goal for the year, how are we performing relative to performance in the last few years, right? Is this 167 out of 625 proportionally a similar gap that has had to be filled in prior years, or are we further behind than we historically had been at this point?
We actually had our goal last year was 575, so it was $50,000 less. So proportionally, so if we look at the percentage we are in terms of the full annual, we are behind. And I think this is why we are all here today, is we need to increase that percentage so that that yellow piece goes further and further down.
And just to say, as the mic comes to Natalie, just to say and be really clear, because you did so well last year, 593 out of 575. Like, we overshot last year. Yay! So we've then budgeted 625 this year, imagining the church has grown, okay, imagining that givers have stepped up. So we don't just pull the numbers out of our, wheres, but it looked like the right trajectory. And some of what has not happened this year is there's a couple of big donors who haven't written their check yet, but there's also some people who never wrote a check. And we want to invite them, you, if that's you.
We have a team of people who are looking at the numbers. We receive a weekly email. So, and I'm the one, I'm not saying that anyone else does, but I really pay attention to that because I don't want to, I wish we didn't have to have this conversation, right? So, so I will say that when it looked like we were starting to fall behind, I was making sure, saying, okay, what are we going to do? And so when Darren referenced about a month ago when it looked like we had such a gap, and we filled that gap, right? About a month ago, it was like, what, 250?
Yeah,
300, right? So we have been stepping up our efforts. We're going to have some house parties and some gatherings to invite you to participate in the conversation more intimately. Where do you want to be involved? What interests, what parts of the movement are you interested in funding? So that's all part of the plan so we can get here. But we realized that we needed to have, we've been talking about like money a lot, and there was more of an urgency now, right? Because we're looking at either reducing expenses or increasing revenues.
I just wanted to say one thing too. I know we're talking a lot about the specific gap, and we have a short-term plan and a long-term plan. And one of the things that our faithful giving and stewardship has increased over the years. That's why we were able to adjust the goal based on what happened last year, things like that. But also, at the same time, as Jackie mentioned earlier, we're trying to get to the point where we pay 50% of our budget by 2022, and right now we're only doing 40. And so there's the short-term gap that must be filled. That is what that thermometer is. But we also are beginning now a longer-term conversation about what stewardship now means for each of us, so that we can really, where we're paying an equitable portion of our movement, this movement that we all need so much.
Thanks.
I have a question that follows directly on what he just said, and I also have to leave, so if I could jump in. I'm a relatively new member. I joined last fall, and I had been coming and donating, but when I became a member, I wondered, okay, now that I'm a member, what should my commitment be? And nobody here said anything to me about it, so I actually called my brother-in-law, who does stewardship for his Unitarian church in Virginia, and he said, here's what we sort of ask people to do as part of their income. So I feel like maybe the culture here, I don't know it since I'm new, but maybe people just haven't asked, right? You know, other churches I've attended, they're pretty clear. Here's, you know, our stewardship goals. Here's for you as an individual. Certainly the Unitarians, you know, seem to be able to ask. And I think there's just an information gap in some level, you know, about what people feel would be an appropriate gift. And maybe that's something we don't want to do. I don't know. But I know for me, you know, I was like, I'm a member, what do I do now? And, you know, there wasn't, you know, part of the membership wasn't, now you're a member, please, you know, give us X or think about X. And so I just put that out as a suggestion that, you know, finding a way to ask people, you know, may well help more.
That is such an important, thank you for that comment and beautiful criticism of us. Because we are actually learning how to shift our culture. I want to say, I've been here longer than all these, well, not all these guys, but 14 years ago, 15 years ago, here was our stewardship campaign. Are you ready? The offering envelopes have come at Christmas time. End of discussion, which is maybe why we raised 7.8% of the money. I think you're absolutely spot on that our membership classes are hit or miss. Some of you have been in a membership class where we gave you an envelope box. Some of you have been in a membership class where we said, hey, you should give, but none of that is institutionalized, none of that is codified, none of it's consistent. So thank you for that, and we have got to do better. Like this is a safe place, nothing's gonna harm you, not while we're around, kind of thing. Nothing's gonna harm you is kind of based in a culture where a lot of our members came from places where they were burned, wounded, over-asked, hurt. All the church does is talk about money. And I think we've overcompensated, my sister. So thank you. And every member, maybe second quick point, also we don't do like, are you a member or not, so much, right? So it's actually all of us as constituents. We need to do better about inviting the give. So thank you for that. I feel appropriately encouraged to do that better.
Hi, Jackie.
Yeah.
Could you talk about the importance of the reoccurring giving, why that's so important to the budget?
Yeah, that's great. You want to do that? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for that question, Lila.
Thank you, and I think it goes back to this other point. I can share with you that my own giving has actually evolved. I used to give every time I came, and one of the things I realized is that when I'm not here, where's the giving? If I'm not here on a Sunday, where's the giving occurring? And so it did really click for me that online giving was a commitment, so that every week, I do weekly, money is actually taken from my account or taken by card, and it goes to this wonderful place where I participate in the justice, and I'm also refueled. Some time ago when I was looking to join consistory and I was asked, I said that I wanted to be, that I love this place and it's like family and it's like my house. And so how I was brought up, you take care of home. This is home team, you all are home team. So me being an online recurring giver is my way of taking care of the family and taking care of home. And so we know that not everybody can start at 40, but please start. We know that people can do more. If you can do more, give abundantly. The other thing that I learned is that making that commitment, making sure that funds comes from me, has made me proactive. Quite frankly, I generate to be generous. That's one of my mantras. So it has made me think very carefully about money and how I want to use money. And it has also empowered me to ask for what I'm worth. So.
Very good. I want to ask Marta, I'm going to put the mic in your hand for a question, but I want to just ask Marta, putting her on the spot, but just a staff person, yes I am, putting her on the spot, a staff person who is so faithful about tithing. Can you talk a little bit about just like where that comes from in you?
Sure.
Yeah.
And then we'll do your question afterwards. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep, there we go. We're coming right to you after.
I grew up in the church, and I had parents who modeled what it looked like, even when we were on a one income. My dad was a stay-at-home dad, and my mom was a school teacher, and we had 4 people living on a school teacher income. But still, they showed me what consistent giving looked like, and so it was modeled for me from a young age. So even when I was out of their home, when I was a college student, when I was getting my first jobs, or even my babysitting money before that, I had that practice already built into me to where it was a discipline. It was, here's the money, and before I can spend it all or apportion it all to student costs or living costs, there was a first fruit that came out and that was given just as a regular habit. If that regular habit wasn't instituted in your life as a young person, it's never too late to start new disciplines and new habits. When I came to New York for grad school, I was on a very tight budget and living on loans, but I was still making some income, and so I started right away as a congregant at Middle Church, saying, this is my community, this is the place that I want to be in fellowship with and doing love and justice work, just like we talked about with our young people today. So I started that habit even on that tight grad school budget, and then coming on staff, that's just a continuation of wanting to be invested in this place as a volunteer, as a staff member, and be invested financially, working together.
Thank you, Marta.
Good morning, and thank you for this wonderful service. This is my second time at church.
Yay.
So very new, very appreciative of the love.
Yay.
So those claps and snaps should be for the church and the service, because I'm just visiting. So with such a novice experience to the church, I wanted to ask and/or have the team think about the numbers in which are being raised, so that 167 gap or what have you, and knowing that a small percentage of congregants or visitors have been donating or giving their tithes or whatever form of terminology that is. I wonder how many of the team is looking at those who don't, and if there's a way to tap into that group.
Yep.
And perhaps there's some anonymous form of question saying, what is it? Is it your finances? Is it you don't trust the church or what have you? Because a lot of times I find us, when we're raising funds, it's like, okay, somebody gave $10,000, let's find them and get another $1,000. Whereas there's a 90% of the congregants not donating. How and why? And I feel if you take that angle, you might be able to close that gap very quickly.
That's a great idea. Anybody want to say anything besides amen on that?
I would say amen on that, but the other thing I would say is that we're not in a position where 90% of the congregants aren't giving.
That's right.
But one of the things that we did notice was consistency of giving, which is why sort of piggybacking on what Hadaria was saying about recurring online giving. Because we have people who, like, they come once a month, right? And they call us their home church, and they would, give us $30 or something like that when they were here. And if you ask them, would you want to be able to feel that every week? Yeah. But if they're only giving when they put the little thing in the envelope, we only got that $30, even though they would have given us $120 that month, because they believe in this movement so much. And that's why we're specifically making this strategic push to recurring weekly online donation, because most folks are willing to give that, and we want to give them the tools to really support this community on a consistent basis.
And we have a goal, right, of recurring donors that we started. When we started this campaign about 4 weeks ago, we were at below 60. and now we're above 80. So we are making progress, and so that is part of the conversation as well. And we really are trying to use our storytelling so that different people who are up here doing the Join the Movement message different things that's going to resonate with this diverse community, right? So we also try and have a lot of different voices sharing their story as well as part of that.
Yeah. Rosemary?
Should we do a couple in a row?
Yeah.
We're about out of time. So
Sure.
I'm going to run to each of y'all.
This is short and sweet. When I originally started to come here, and then I was an usher and went with the SAC, I was shocked at how many people weren't giving.
Yeah.
And now at least you can, every week you get money out of my credit card, and it's so you have a way to measure it.
Yeah.
But you have to do that.
Just to celebrate the culture change. Just to celebrate the culture change while Rob is taking the mic to somebody else. I am stunned at how much we've changed. Like, think. A $1 million budget, how can I say it? A $1 million budget, $78,000. That's what we did when I got here. $1 million budget, $78,000. Now it's $2 million budget, $600,000. This is amazing. And we still have, amazing.
Yeah. So I'm a fairly new member, and I'm glad we're having this conversation. And something that just sort of a connection that occurred to me is that I've been reading some articles lately coming out about how people respond to statistics in terms of taking action on things like human suffering or somehow contributing to a cause. And it's been coming out that it's really ineffective for human beings to see numbers like millions of people are dying from this disease, therefore you should contribute, because often human beings, our psychology is like, well, I can only do so much, so that doesn't even really help because the problem is so big. Right. So I guess when I'm looking at this number of 167,000, I'm wondering if you guys could speak on the importance of the small donations in contributing to that, because some people who can only contribute whatever amount a week might think, well, I would do it, but it's probably not going to make much of a dent. So it might be an interesting angle to talk about what percentage or how important it is that the smaller donations be made.
I agree.
I'm coming back over here.
I actually just wanted to say that every level fuels this movement, this middle church movement, and our global movement of power, of justice and reconciliation. I think, as I think someone said up here, it fuels, when you give, it fuels and it empowers you at a certain level that you feel like you're in it. And I think whatever amount, and if you're able, a larger amount, just powers this movement now and for the future.
So I'm going to tell a story while the mic's coming to Natalie about Duana. I'm going to tell it.
Do 1, 2, 3, and then then it's yours.
Okay, sure.
Okay. I agree with what this person said. A while back, you were asking for people to contribute $40 a week on an ongoing basis. That's a set amount. And it would be good to be more inclusive so that you welcome people who can give less, and include a wide range of people, because that is not everybody. Thank you.
Okay, can I talk now, Rob, or do you want to wait?
I want you to get it all in at the end.
Oh my gosh, Rob.
First of all, I'd like to say that I'm rather conservative, and I contribute to the common plate, which is not necessarily a practice in the church. However, I have a small idea. I don't know how ultra it is. However, I believe that a certain amount of income could be drafted from the income that's provided for the government. Since I'm no longer working, is there any way we could put this into practice where the donations could be subtracted from the governmental income?
It's a faith-based initiative.
I'm going to talk now, Rob. Is that okay?
There's just one last one.
I'm going to forget. Okay. All right.
Sorry, Jackie.
Okay,
I know that there are a lot of different kinds of people who come to Middle, but I do know that there are a lot of artists, and I fall in that group. And I guess I'm saying two things. One, it's been good to be a recurring giver to me because my income changes extremely drastically. Like, I don't exactly know what it is, sometimes week to week and sometimes whatever to whatever. So one good thing has been consistently giving, but I do feel like also the $40 amount can be scary because it's either feast or famine. So sometimes I have that and that's super easy, and sometimes it's not. And I guess what I'm wondering is, I know that like we're worried about programming going away, but I think that like financial literacy is empowering and having those types of conversations. So maybe there could be like even small group discussions with these lay people who are now, taking leadership to have those kinds of conversations, because again, like giving my amount that I give weekly has been empowering, but I have not been able to do the 40. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. I'm just going to, because what I don't want to do is run out of time before we clarify. Just to clarify, we got to $40 a week only because take gap, divide by number of people, divide by number of weeks equals 40, which was to say, if on average, on the mean, if everybody who was consuming worship, everybody who was watching worship, either here or online, out there in the world, did $40 a week, we'd fill our gap. We all know that everybody can't do $40. And we also all learned that saying out loud $40 a week made some of you uncomfortable. So that's why we're unsaying that. Okay? Phyllis, everybody, Ayana, we're unsaying that. Kalisma, we're unsaying that. What we are saying is, everybody that's a part of the church, what could you commit to give in a recurring way? And the success story I want to say is like Duana. I don't know if you guys know Duana or can picture Duana, but she misses church lots now because she works on Sundays. But that's a $20 a month girl, faithfully. And she's kind of homeless. Okay? She lives in a shelter. When Miss Lucille was here, bless her heart, rest her soul, she used to give $40 a month, every month, faithfully, for decades. That's what she could do, and she did it. The thing that Calista was saying is, when you just start budgeting it just happens. It comes out of your pocket, and you don't have to think about it anymore. That's what we really mean. And we're learning how to do this. Back to my sister who asked about our culture of giving. We're learning, we're experimenting. We thought we could fill the gap with that kind of a campaign. What we are saying today is we're pivoting. It's called a pivot. Let me show you the pivot. Are you ready? $40 a week. Pivot. Okay. Pivoting to, can each of us commit to make a recurring donation to the church? Recurring for you might be something a month, because that's how your money flows. For me, it's something a quarter. That's how my money flows. So I recurringly donate once a quarter. But for any of us who could think about donating something a week, what that does is it starts coming out of your life without you thinking about it anymore. And it also helps us to see funds that we'll have. It's like, oh, we can see that. That's going to be $20 a month from Bob, and that's $50 a week from Sam, and that's $4,000 a day from Natalie. That just helps us.
Hey,
just making up stuff.
If the income comes in,
there we go.
I'll give it generously.
But in a real way, the church needs to make a budget expecting what the revenue might be. So that's our continuous, pivoted, clarified campaign. Veronica used to do some money classes, Calista, they're coming back so we can do financial literacy. And just, you all are right. That kind of an ask wasn't going to do us as well as we hoped. Okay? Is that helpful? Okay, thank you. Is there any other question?
We'll stay up here.
We'll stay. Yep, we'll still stay. I gotta go, but y'all can stay.
So just really quickly, I'm receiving and convicted about the recurring online gift, and I think that was probably the point, and I got it.
Yeah.
My other two really quick points would be, we do have a lot of celebrities who support us.
Yeah.
Is there some type of organized effort to send them letters, to ask them to be on the board or be,
Yes.
whatever? That's it.
Yep.
And then the third really quick point is, I follow a lot of nonprofits online, and they often share specific campaigns that they're doing, and I'm often walking with my phone and saying, oh my God, you're helping kids in Syria? Okay, PayPal $10, like right now. Do we push out our campaign so that even if you don't live in New York and you don't care about church, but you care about what we're doing, are we pushing that out on a, every 2 or 3 days we're sharing something so that someone could get a chance to donate? And I think my fundraising husband has a question.
I think he wants to tell us how to do it. Thank you.
Well, piggybacking on that, obviously like crowdfunding, a lot of the social justice ministries here, I understand that congregants are your major donor pool. However, I think Middle Collegiate has a very good image, and I think a lot of people could really buy into the work that you do. I was wondering if there are any sort of initiatives on what Christine was saying about that. Also, has anyone sort of dug in? I know that as a nonprofit, you can apply for grants from foundations and other organizations. Is there maybe a concerted effort to see what parts of your ministry might entice a foundation to give to the church? Because I think something like that would also sort of inspire to see that there's a fundraising initiative that's beyond the pews here at the church.
Great ideas. Yep, thank you.
And the answer to all of them is yes.
Yes.
We have talked about it. We want to start with our constituents that are in the pews every day, right? Because that's where we're going to get the multi-annual commitment that we need. In addition, we are talking about how do we start to do some more institutional level review. And doing that, and to your question, Christine, around celebrities, yes, we do that.
I'm the celebrity whisperer.
So the answer is all of that, yes. I do want to say that we are doing the work. It's not Jackie, it's not Rob, it's not Marta, it's all of us sitting in the pews. And so from that perspective, we're asking for ownership, collective ownership, and that's the core of the message of being in and being here.
Did you have a question? Okay.
So I think we have to wrap up, right? So
maybe one more question from. There's one back here. Okay, I got two. We'll take them two. There's a lot more questions.
Just say we'll stay up here.
Okay. So, are you comfortable if we stay up here and talk to you? Do you want to say your questions out loud so everybody knows what they are?
The question we don't have to answer right now is, as we're looking at a definite goal by 2022, and also the way that the church is growing so beautifully, is there a move toward actually formalizing a strategic plan for the organization as a whole, but also related to fundraising, that we could formalize and then people would have access to reading?
We make a strategic plan every 5 years. It's a great question, and we have one. So I think we need to post it, okay, so you can see. And yes, it's got a fundraising component, but excellent question.
And I just wanted to say, I think it touches on your question. It also touches on what you were saying as well. While we are looking at grants and foundations and things like that for a longer term strategy, as far as the pool of people we're working with right now, we have the immediate gap, and that we already know that we have a faithfully giving congregation, and that we have some major givers as well. And we are definitely leaning on more on that for this immediate goal. But what you were talking about for the larger goal, unless somebody knows a foundation or institution that would be able to come through in the next month and a half, in which case I would love to chat with you today.
Let's hear Catherine shout out her question. You got it? Okay. Others?
That's one of the independence of the church, is that we don't have those grants or big funders. That's one thing that we're also very thoughtful about, is that Jackie can say whatever she wants, and isn't beholden to certain people and certain large donors. That's why, we also see this as a faith journey. This is not separate from anything else that we do. That this money stuff is so much a part of, because if we don't talk about it here, we get terrible things about money walking in New York. You can't walk in New York and not have money slapping you in the face everywhere you go, and how much you don't have, or what you need to be happy. And so if we're not talking about it here as a part of our faith journey, then something else is going to fill it in.
I've got to go upstairs and just go to the bathroom, frankly, and brush my teeth before I preach the second time. But I would love to invite you, Catherine, anyone else who wants to come up and talk to the panel. They're going to be here. These guys will be here, and we can talk some more. And then I just want to close by saying this, everyone. You have stunning ideas. And we don't want to be the people like, we know. That's not who we are. We're learning. We want to know what your ideas are. I'm going to ask on Monday when Ness gets it back in the office for us to send out a link or something where you can write back some ideas. If you didn't get to say it today because you're shyer or it bounces in your mind, we'd love to know what you think. And if you're interested in being on the Partnership Task Force, that's what we call it. Kelly's been on the team for 2 years now. Curtis is about to be drafted. He doesn't know. I'm about to whisper him right into the team. Any of you who are interested in fundraising, good at fundraising, have been thinking about fundraising, I would love a personal email. Actually, write Rob, because I'm going to be gone. We'll gather you up. Write Rebecca, and let's gather you. And so we can do this together. It's our shared work. And we love you. We're so proud of what we've done. Woo! We've done so well. And we just aren't going to be finished until when it's 2022, Collegiate pays half, and we pay half. The market is volatile. I can't talk. The market is volatile. The market is volatile. That word. Collegiate is making some interesting decisions and investments. We don't know what the collegiate story is going to be in the long term, but the middle story needs to be we fund 50% of our ministry by 2022, and I can't wait until we fund all of it, because then we'll really be independent. Amen? Amen. Okay. So y'all got it. I'm going to tip away. Goodbye.
Thank y'all.